I dedicated the past couple of episodes to revisiting the best music released in 2020. The artists that stood out in the middle of what was an extremely busy year, as well as covering your picks in the Hand That Feeds HQ Awards 2020. Now that January is behind our backs, everything is back on track for plenty of packed months of releases. But one thing that I always like to do when a year starts is to write down my expectations. Some are based on trends I have been analyzing, thus they end up becoming true with time. Others end up being wishful thinking, ways in which I'd hope the Seiyuu and music industries would work. And then when you have your expectations all written down, there come the surprises. Those debuts you hadn't even thought that could happen, the new projects that appear, the new ways in which Seiyuu connect with their fans. In this episode, I will cover all my expectations for male Seiyuu and the music industry connected to 2D music projects and solo artists of Seiyuu background. Let's kick off this episode of Seiyuu Lounge. Welcome to Seiyuu Lounge. I am your host Vanessa, and today I will be talking about my expectations for 2021. You may be asking yourself, but aren't we already in February? Yes, you are right. However, we all know that January is usually a month that is a bit slow, and we haven't got that much new music to enjoy so far in 2021. So I decided to go over some of my predictions for 2021, with particular emphasis on solo artists, bands, Seiyuu units and 2D music projects. And in 2022, around the same time, I will go over what ended up happening and what didn't. This may be an interesting exercise for me, and I also invite you to do the same. Write down your predictions or expectations for the Seiyuu industry, or just your favorite Seiyuu, and in 2022, let me know if any of those came true. Now, some of these may be bold, others won't happen in a lifetime, while others may happen. In case you aren't aware of the recent events, Takuya Guchi is the newest solo artist in the block. Kiramune announced his solo debut in January 2021, and fans were over the moon about the news. Although I want to be excited for his debut, I will go to this mini album with low expectations. After all, Kiramune are known for sticking their talents for a couple of years performing bubblegum pop music, and that is a type of music that I don't fancy at all. Then again, I don't know what to expect of Takuya Guchi's debut. Interesting enough, I wasn't betting on a Takuya Guchi debut. I do have my bets on upcoming debuts, but I never thought it'd go his own way, especially how everything seemed like he was waiting alongside Ryohei Kimura for Tsubasa Yonaga to recover and resume activities with Trignal. I keep wanting Trignal to come back, but well, this solo debut doesn't bode well for the future of the group, especially with the trio being on hiatus since 2018. But enough about the recent news. Attention that from this point on, everything I will be saying in this episode, unless it is previously released singles or albums, are just predictions or expectations of mine. None of these are confirmed, nor do I have sources indicating that any of these things will happen. I just happen to have worked for a music label in the past and have 11 years under my belt following the music industry tied to male Seiyuu and 2D music projects, which in the end gives me some level of comfort to talk about highly probable things based on patterns by the artists or music labels. Then again, these are my expectations. Full-length albums by Mamoru Miyano, Yuma Uchida, Shota Oi, Shunichi Toki and Old Codex. I am betting a lot on this prediction. Artists have a tendency for releasing full-length albums every 2 or 3 years. Usually between the albums, they release 2 or 3 singles to meet their quota of activity in the music industry. But then by the 3rd single in a row, with no album in the way, it's safe to say that the artist is thinking about releasing one to compile some of the songs on those singles, plus add something new to the table. Mamoru Miano's last full-length album was The Love, released in 2017. It's been 4 years, he's got 4 singles that were released since then. Yeah, I am 100% sure we'll be getting a full-length album by Mamo before the end of 2021. If I want to be bolder in my prediction, I'd say Mamo releases a new album around June or July. Yuma Uchida's first full-length album, Horizon, was released in 2019. It actually ranks pretty high among my all-time favorite albums, and I still am not over its quality. But given how active it's been since Horizon's release, with 3 singles, Over, Image and Shake Shake Shake, released since then, it's time to release his second full-length album. I am 90% sure on this one. Shota Oi is long overdue to release a full-length album. It's been 4 years since the talented solo artist released Zero. If you haven't checked the album yet, please do. Some of the best pop performances I've had the pleasure of listening to were delivered in that album. In these 4 years, Aoi released 4 singles, with the best one being Eclipse, single that includes the heart-wrenching I Am. In the middle of those 4 singles, there's a lot of quality, interesting ideas, new concepts and sonorities. Don't know about you, but I am 100% certain Shota Oi is going to grace us with a full-length album this year. Shunichi Toki has yet to release his first full-length album. Seeing how his label mates Hiroshi Mono and Jun Fukuyama already have one under their belts, it is safe to say that Toki will be the next one. I am not sure on this one, and that's because Pony Canyon is a bit unpredictable. But I believe that a full-length album is on its way. If not in 2021, at least in the first quarter of 2022. Old Codex are going to release a remix album this year, however, that doesn't count as new music. The band follows an irregular pattern when it comes to album releases. In some years, they've released full-length albums in quick succession, in others they leave a gap year between albums. Given how 2020 was that gap year for the band, I am betting on Old Codex bringing a full-length album before the end of 2021. I would add another bet in here based on current activity and no album release so far to compile all that activity. Tasuku Hatanaka may be gunning for a second full-length album in 2021. He released 3 singles in quick succession in 2020, which hinted, at least for me, of something bigger to drop in 2021. I am betting on a second full-length album. My confidence on whether this will happen is not that high though. Lantis really don't know where to take Hatanaka's career and is yet to find his groove, with the past 3 singles serving as a way to showcase versatility more so than finding his way. If he doesn't arrive with a full-length album, you can be sure he'll be bringing new music in the summer. This is no prediction, it's based on his behavior since solo debut. Music always releases in the summer for him. The intricate singer-songwriters and lyricists will be back. I don't know about you, but I still am not over the impressive albums by Soma Saito and Makoto Furukawa. In Bloom and From Fairy Tale stole the show for me in 2020, but I certainly want more and they certainly will be active in 2021. Only thing we don't know is in what capacity. It is safe to say that another album in quick succession would be a ridiculously difficult feat to achieve for both, as albums take a long time to craft, especially if you are a singer-songwriter like Soma Saito or like Makoto Furukawa, a performer and lyricist. Also, both have insanely packed schedules as voice actors, so there's not a lot of time left for composing or writing. So it's safe to say that they will release something more compact and faster to craft. Since Saito is the most prolific of both, as in is always composing and writing something, I am betting on Soma Saito going for an EP in December and a single in June. Both releases building up for a third full-length album release in 2022. He did hint at premiering new songs in his upcoming live tour, so if that tour isn't cancelled or postponed, we may be getting a glimpse of new music already in April. Makoto Furukawa perhaps releases a single in the summer close to September. Since his debut is never released more than one CD per year, so I won't predict that he'll release more than one single. Although it would be an interesting surprise if he pulled off 2 or more singles. Then again, quality over quantity. As long as I can get more jazz goodness and awesome lyrics plus performances from him, I am already happy. It could even be a digital single. I get the feeling that these two are safe predictions. Either way, it's safe to say that unless something really unpredictable happens, they will be pretty active in 2021 as solo artists. Trignall making a comeback. Is this a bold prediction? I have a feeling it is, especially now that the group has hit their 3rd year of hiatus and Takuya Guchi has decided to go solo. I don't know what to expect, but after the release of Tricolore in 2018, I was left wanting more from a group that, in that mini album, hit their peak of maturity and quality on both the vocal and music ends. Are Trignall making a comeback in 2021? Honestly, don't know, but I sure hope so. Then again, we don't know how well are Tsubasa Yonaga's vocal cords at the moment. Has he fully recovered, or is he only doing things with his voice that don't require straining, and singing is out of the question? I wouldn't mind the group to continue on hiatus until Yonaga is fully recovered. Priority to him recovering, and then we can all think about new music from the talented trio if they ever want to make a comeback. I am a bit worried about Trignall's long hiatus and their future. Too many good seiyuu units have bitten the dust recently, DAT and Elekita Round Zero. So I am kind of wary of hiatus and how silence for too long is not a good thing. Then again, if Kamyu managed to return after a long hiatus, then Trignall can also pull it off. The genius solo artist is back. Toshiyuki Toyonaga has made a habit of being active at least once every year. In 2020, the singer-songwriter released the single Oyozure Goto. And it is safe to say that 2 songs weren't enough to satiate our want for new music from Toyonaga. However, we need to have into account that Toyonaga has a pretty packed schedule as a voice actor. And as a solo artist, is in charge of everything in his music. He writes the lyrics, composes his songs, plays several instruments, does arrangements, and is actually his own boss, as he owns the music label he's signed to. Only time will tell, but I bet that we will hear something from Toyonaga, the solo artist, before the end of 2021. Yuya Hirose to make a solo debut. In 2020, I wasn't expecting that Gakuto Kajiwara and Kotaro Nishiyama would make their solo debuts. In 2021, I really don't know what to expect. We kicked off the year with the announcement of Takuya Guchi's solo debut, which I wasn't expecting, but I do have a couple of seiyuu I'd love to see as solo artists because of their passion for music, as well as natural talent as singers. Yuya Hirose is one of them. If you're an avid reader of Zul and Erosion's reviews at The Hand That Feeds HQ, you're well aware of how fond I am of Yuya Hirose's vocals and how I consider him as a genuinely talented singer. Music labels in Japan are aware of that by now, especially Lantis music label that distributes Zul's music. I wouldn't be surprised if Lantis actually managed to sign him to a solo artist deal. After all, they have the most advantageous position over all other music labels because of the Idolish 7 franchise. At the same time, Yuya Hirose is aware that he can get more eyes on his career as a voice actor if he ventures towards a solo career. Question is, does he want a solo career? I don't know, but one thing is for certain. I'd love to hear him singing the music he loves, making his talents as a singer known, and a solo career would be a positive step towards that. If he does make a solo debut, I'd love him to join Sakura Music or Lantis, depending on if he's looking for either complete or some creative freedom. King Records only if he wants to be a pop star and be on the TV all the time promoting his music. There are 3 other names that I'd love to find working as solo artists, but it's unlikely that they will ever make a solo debut. For reference, I'd love Shoya Chiba, Yoshiki Nakajima and Shun Horie to make solo debuts. However, there are a lot of variables that make their hypothetical solo debuts not happen. Shoya Chiba is plenty busy with Sparklu and Kashikomi. However, interest in him in the seiyuu and music industries has been rising in the past couple of months. Could he make a solo debut? I would love if it happens, especially knowing how much of a music geek he is, plus he plays lead and rhythm guitar with quite the flair. If he ever makes a solo debut, I would love to see him performing rock music. Signed to Sakura Music, being a singer-songwriter with complete freedom, also following the footsteps of one of the voice actors he admires the most, which is to say, Soma Saito. Yoshiki Nakajima also has his hands full with U-Make and Sir Vanity. Sir Vanity aren't that active, but then again, we don't know what they have in store for 2021. Also, let's not forget that they are fond of April Fools, so something may be announced around that time of the year. Nakajima has said it before that he aims at being a complete performer like Mamoru Miyano. Man, I'd love for him to go to King Records and embrace a career as a pop artist just to make that dream of his come true, but at the same time he's a singer-songwriter and that doesn't work well with King Records that usually resorts to in-house composers and lyricists for their artists. Lantis or Sakura Music would be good options of major music labels with lots of resources to make him and his music known, and he'd get that freedom in that bundle. Then again, Nakajima's busy and this is just wishful thinking on my side. Shun Horie has been quite a surprise for me. The more I hear him sing, the more I enjoy his singing skills. He's got quite the unique voice tone, a bit raspy yet delicate at the same time. It ends up being a great combo that, alongside his technique, makes him shine with Vazzy, and although I am not the biggest fan of Sparklu, remember, I am not a fan of bubbly pop music, he stands out as one of the group's best singers. He's the type of singer that would get picked by Kiramune. He's got a gentle, bubbly vibe and fits with pop music pretty well. Still, Lantis would be a better option for its freedom in image and sound as well as concept. These 3 are all unlikely to happen, however I am secretly hoping any of these come true. 2021, please surprise me. Live tours or events to have a live streaming component from now on. More than a prediction, this is how the music industry will have to adapt itself to the changes we've been experiencing due to COVID-19. Question is, how fast can the industry actually adapt to that? Live tours and events, if it's possible being pulled off within Japan, should have a live streaming component. Making live streaming of live shows and events could turn into a fail-safe in case tours, live shows or events are cancelled due to restrictions to avoid the spread of the pandemic, as well as, when things get better, be an extra source of revenue for artists by allowing those that live far within Japan or even overseas to attend the shows without hopping on a plane and spending a small fortune just to attend a live show. Now the question is, will those live streams be open to overseas fans to partake? So far, projects that claim to be openly welcoming and catering to overseas fans like the Hypnosis Mic franchise have not opened their live shows to worldwide live streams. Yeah, weird, but it's how Evil Line Records is acting. Merchandise and fan club open to overseas fans, of course, quick money for the music label, but live shows are region-locked. This is beyond ridiculous. They've region-locked the live streams for the upcoming 3 live shows part of Hypnosis Mic 6 Live. Their partnership with Abema TV in a way locks us, international fans, of watching the franchise's live shows unless you want to use VPN on their website, something that is not recommended as it is a violation of Japanese copyright laws, plus their website turns into a laggy mess. So it doesn't bode well for the chances of us, foreign fans, being able of supporting, by paying to watch, from the comfort of our homes, our favorite projects or solo artists perform live. How come Idolish 7 only made the live stream of their recent 5th anniversary event only available to a couple of countries in Asia and the US, and they forgot about the fans in the whole European and African continents? Yes, these are things that make me wonder whether or not 2D music projects and Seiyu are really interested in having international fans join in the fun. I believe that many of us would be interested in paying to have access to live shows by our favorites. I sure was excited about Idolish 7's anniversary event and Hypnosis Mic's live shows in the 6th Live. Wallet ready and everything, only to slam my face against the region lock that was put on both. If only many of us didn't have to resort to VPNs to fill in that void. Still, I hope there is along the way a franchise that comes forward and makes an important step in a good direction. A bit like how Argonavis from Bang Dream came forward in 2020 and held the sound-only live shows, all available worldwide. Mamoru Miyano actually held his first ever live stream live show in December 2020, and it was indeed a live show that had international fans into attention. Everyone around the world could watch the live if they purchased a ticket for it. The fact that it was Mamo that took that first step towards including international fans is a good thing. Why? Many of the trends currently going for solo artists were set or heavily influenced by what Mamo has been doing in the music industry. If he does something and it works, other artists and music labels are watching and will, with time, end up following his lead. I sure hope this happens and live streams of live shows end up being available to overseas fans in general. Then again, there are music labels that, no matter what, refuse to open to international fans, so I reckon it will be a case-by-case thing. Anyway, I'll keep saying this until it happens. International fans would love to have the opportunity to watch their favorites. And many would be willing to pay to watch, to have access to those live shows and events in a live stream format. Live tours and events should have a live streaming component from this year on and have into account international fans. If the issue are the taxes, then make the tickets a bit more expensive to cover those. Beyond that, there are no additional issues to making live streams available worldwide behind a paywall, of course. This is a really bold prediction and, should I say, more of a wish, but if it comes true, oh boy, it will be an important step forward towards making Seiyu and 2D music projects more accessible and known to the international audience. They would win exposure and their earnings would soar. And we would finally get to attend the live shows or events we've always wanted to, without having to fly out to Japan or, in the context of the pandemic, having to resort to VPNs to get a taste of the real experience. The resurgence of rock music into the music projects. This is something that I have been noticing in the past couple of months. Rock is starting to make its comeback. In the absence of Fly Me Project and Bandia Roses bands, there have been quite a few projects in the front lines championing for rock music, making the days of fans of the music genre. In the last couple of years, the Vez Rock, Dear Vocalist, Dig Rock and Argo Navis from Bang Dream franchises have been working non-stop towards making their bands exciting while exploring different brands of rock. Carnelian Blood's Erosion made quite the entrance in 2020, showing that rock is alive and kicking, only missing the popularity among fans of 2D music. Recently, the Unlight Tribe franchise joined in the exclusive group of rock-centric 2D music projects. It seems as well that Dynamic Chord is back on track, although in an indie capacity. Slowly, rock music is finding its way to the spotlight. For starters, I'd love for Fly Me Project to wake up from its long slumber and deliver their unique brands of visual kei. The project has in Daiki Yamashita and Soma Saito two of the best singers among Seiyu, two vocal chameleons that have always delivered jaw-dropping performances as the frontman of Drink Me and Medicode, respectively. The wait has been painful, especially after both bands went on hiatus right after the release of what were their best singles to date. At the same time, I'd love for Bandia Roses bands to make a comeback, but we all know that only Osiris, the band that has any kind of activities outside of the franchise's universe since the start, is the one that has the best possibilities of releasing new music in 2021. Then again, with the band not being able to perform live, it is less likely that the band will return anytime soon. 2D music groups focusing on having a unique sound, plus 2D franchises to have fewer groups in the lineup. More than an expectation, this is an observation of something that has been slowly changing. I don't know if you notice it, but idol groups and bands in the 2D music industry have started to focus on having a unique sound. Up until recently, all idol projects sounded, with one or two details of difference, essentially the same. That was something that made fans of male Seiyu avoid music from projects like Utapri, Idolish 7, Side M, Ensemble Stars, Marginal Number 4 and the sort. The best-selling 2D idol groups, Quartet Night, Starish and Trigger, have throughout the years changed their image and sound, having settled for something unique that fits both the fictional group's image, but, and this one is the new element in the equation, also the 3D counterparts, the voice actors. The last part actually doesn't fit Starish, because their music isn't tailored to the vocals of the voice actors, instead being tailored to the voice tone that the voice actors must have as the characters. In a way, the music from Quartet Night and Trigger have been tailored to the members' vocals, something that can be easily noticeable by comparing their debut releases to their most recent CD releases. Starish haven't changed a thing in that department. That is actually part of their charm as a group, making a wave of nostalgia hit the listener, especially noticeable if you're a longtime fan of the group. but it certainly doesn't show any growth on the group's side. Their sound is also pretty standard pop idol sound. Nothing innovative here. Once again, they were the very first 2D idol group with an all-male seiyuu lineup to be popular, so you can say that all other idol groups since then, in a way, have followed their sound, which, in return, has made their sound pretty generic. Many fans will say that they don't care about that. Still, this is something worth pointing out, especially if you, like me, like to analyze groups' growth and evolution through the years. Quartet Night and Trigger have their own identity, and I reckon no other group out there has their vibe or sound. That may be part of the recipe for their consistent success and popularity. Ensemble Stars is a weird case. They do have a lot of variety, but aside from Undead and Valkyrie, all other groups are what you'd call stereotypical pop groups, and you can find similar sounding groups in other projects with a lot of ease. This of course doesn't take away the quality that all groups in this franchise have, but it is interesting to see that the only memorable groups for having a unique sound are Undead and Valkyrie. The Marginal Number 4 franchise, one of the longest running 2D idol franchises in the industry, although one that I hold dear, frustratingly enough has not evolved as predicted. The groups have matured slightly on the vocal end, but their music, even with a slight overhaul in recent years, is still stereotypical pop music. The Saidam franchise is yet another franchise with stereotypical pop music sound, and even their rock acts and traditional Japanese pop groups have similar sounding acts in other projects. Quantity doesn't mean quality nor uniqueness in their sound. This is something that most 2D idol projects should know. Instead of packing their franchises with 10 or 12 groups, why not focusing on the existing groups, having a unique identity and sound within not just the project itself, but also within the 2D music industry? 3 to 4 groups in the lineup seem to be the recipe for success. Just look at how consistently powerful sales-wise and how popular the Utapri and Idolish 7 franchises are. Look how well the Paradox Live franchise is doing when they have the fierce competition of the Hypnosis Mic franchise. Well, I could keep going on and on with this analysis, but it would take me a couple of hours to go over all groups and projects and tell you which groups have music tailored to the voice actors' vocals, and which are tailored to the characters, and which groups have unique sound or image. So I won't be doing that. Thankfully, among the 2D music projects that debuted in the past 2 years, which are Dig Rock, Carnelian Blood, and Light Tribe and Perfection Noise, all have less than 5 groups in their lineup. Actually, many of these are below 3 groups in their lineups, which is just perfect. This seems to be the start of a trend, as you have both rock bands and EDM-centric idol groups in the mix, covering the 2 classic 2D group variants. With 4 or 3 groups, you still have variety and a considerably big cast that leaves a lot of possibilities open for story and music. And you avoid having a 2D project stuffed with groups that sound exactly the same, the only differences being the character designs and the voice actors in the cast. I know that idol projects thrive on merchandise sales, and that is obtained primarily by having a lot of groups in those lineups and focusing more on the visual side of the groups instead of the music quality. But still, what good is a project if out of 12 groups only 2 sound unique? Yeah, they are popular, yeah, it brings sales. Unfortunately, when 2D idol projects come to an end, people only remember the groups that stood out visuals or sound-wise. Look at Bandia Rose and how fans are only nostalgic and intensely vocal about Osiris. Food for thought. Ridiculously big casts, music that sounds the same even within the same project, and no unique selling point, not to mention massive fandoms filled with drama or delusional fans that take away all the excitement about the project, are the reasons why many fans of Seiyu prefer supporting their favorite voice actors in their solo, Seiyu unit or band endeavors as opposed to those 2D idol groups. These and many other things are what explains in a way why many fans of male Seiyu are not fans of 2D idol groups, even if their favorite Seiyu are part of those groups. Is this a good or a bad thing, you ask? More than a good or a bad thing, it is a sign that 2D idol groups should start thinking small and focusing on having a unique sound for their groups. Also, fans should stop being crazy and delusional. Back to what I was saying. Fans of good music flock to unique sounding groups. The sound can be catchy and still unique. If the vocals are good, then fans of good vocals flock to the project. Then as a creator, you focus on the visuals of the group members. And cue the fans of 2D idol groups that only support groups for their looks. Many idol groups have been crafted with looks first in the equation and music last, which is a pity. Too many 2D idol groups have failed in the past decade because of their focus being on exactly all the wrong things. So, and now this is my expectation, it would be interesting if more 2D groups followed the footsteps of Quartet Night, Trigger, Undead, Valkyrie, Quell, Solids, Growth, Soara, Erosion, Noise Nova, Ruby Leopard, Impish Crow, Gyroaxia and Phantom Iris, and actually focus on having a unique sound that makes them easily identifiable. A unique sound usually gives way for the group's longevity as well as ability to attract new fans even as the group gets older. At the same time, by specializing in their own brand of music, we can get more quality with each release. Fans that care about music will actually purchase the music. If the music is not memorable, fans stick with listening through streaming platforms or pirate it. Anyway, it is already noticeable how new 2D music projects are scaling down, focusing their efforts on having few groups within their projects with a sound that is unique and with less focus on image and more on the stories, which carries over to more impactful story-driven lyrics. It will be interesting to see if other 2D music groups will start focusing their efforts on having a unique sound, as well as how 2D franchises will adapt to the current times, with little to no live show exposure. At the same time, it will be pretty interesting to see how the recently debuted 2D idol and rock bands will fare when their focus is on a balance between stories and music. Curious about the unique selling points that new 2D music projects will have. There will be, for certain, new 2D idol or band projects being announced in 2021. Every year there's one or two to be announced and another two to be cancelled. This cycle is frustrating because most of the times we don't get quality with the new projects, and the good projects with unique selling points end up getting the short end of the stick. Well, these were just some of my expectations / predictions for 2021. From this month on, there will be solo debuts being announced, exciting comebacks, new releases from your favorite artists, bands and 2D idol groups. There will be changes in the way Seiyu interact with their fans. 2D music projects will have to rethink their strategies. 2021 is setting up to be another year of change and adaptation, and I can't wait to see what it has in store for us in terms of the Seiyu and music industries. You got 8 of my expectations and predictions for this year in this episode. I will return to those in 2022 and check if any of those came true. Still, I want to be surprised in 2021 by some wildcard debut or new project, or even seeing a currently active solo artist aiming towards being a superstar like Mamoru Miyano. Possibilities are endless as well as creativity. Let's wait and see what the year has in store for male seiyuu and 2D music projects. Now tell me, what are your expectations for male seiyuu and 2D music projects in 2021? Let me know in the comments below, and I will also revisit your comments in 2022 and see if any of those expectations or predictions came true. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss the Hand That Feeds HQ's weekly male seiyuu and music related content, hit the subscribe button. I'll return next week with another episode of Seiyuu Lounge. Thank you for listening and see you guys around.